Well, it looks like the group's found themselves between a rock and a hard place. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. As part of my Fast and Furious franchise review series, today I'm going to be talking about the 2011 action heist sequel, Fast 5. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All of my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Fast 5 stars Paul Walker, Vin Diesel, and Dwayne Johnson, and was directed by Justin Lin. It follows Brian and Dom, played by Paul Walker and Vin Diesel, who are currently on the run as they put together their team to plan a $100 million heist in order to buy their freedom. One of the most interesting things about a long-running franchise is how everybody's experiences with it are a little bit different. Everybody has their own favorite film in the series and ranking, but they've also got their own starting point and history with the franchise too. For instance, I was a semi-latecomer to the Fast and Furious franchise. My first Fast and Furious movie was Tokyo Drift, a few years after it came out. Fast and Furious, the fourth movie, was the first one I saw contemporaneously, and with the benefit of finally watching all of the preceding films. But Fast 5 was the turning point for me. It was the first Fast and Furious movie that I genuinely really enjoyed. It was the first one that hooked me on my initial viewing, and it was the movie that converted me into a fan of the franchise. The Fast and Furious franchise began as a very street racing-centric story, and while the cars and car action have always remained a big component of the series, car racing was gradually reduced as the films went on. Fast 5 only has one true street race in it, the $1 Million Quarter Mile, which in itself was much more playful and laid back than any of the other previous races have been. Now, we saw this reduction in racing in the previous film, and while it had its entertaining moments, I think the revenge-driven cartel story was a little lackluster. So it would be perfectly reasonable if you were a little hesitant about the next non-racing story in the franchise, but you've got nothing to fear here in that department. I think Fast 5 has one of the better stories in the entire franchise. It manages to take things from all of the previous films and put them together in a way that's satisfying to existing fans, but still simple enough to understand for franchise newcomers as well. The globetrotting continues here, and this time we find the group in Rio de Janeiro. And don't worry, you won't forget where they are. We get 3 different shots of the Christ the Redeemer statue, and Dom makes sure to announce that this is Brazil for good measure. Fast 5's got a very fun and interesting story that's only enhanced by our history with and knowledge of these characters, and everything they've been through up to this point. Rather than undercover work or racing or revenge, this is a one last job heist. These characters have evolved over time. Their life circumstances have changed, and so the story's kind of matured with them. The theme of family's been central to this franchise since the first movie. It had a somewhat melodramatic story resurgence in Fast and Furious, but it is absolutely the thematic core of Fast 5, driving not only the characters, but the story itself. Speaking of characters, Fast 5 is a family reunion. We got a taste of this in the previous film, seeing the reunion of the core characters from the first film for the first time since that film. It was great to have the gang back together, but Fast 5 takes it even further. This is an ensemble movie. This is the team-up movie of the Fast and Furious franchise. It's where everything finally converges, and we have characters from every single film together at last. If you don't know or care about these characters, it's still very fun to see their interactions and the different skills they bring to the table, in a sort of Ocean's 11 kind of way. But if you do know the characters, and you're invested in this Fast and Furious family, this team-up is unbelievably satisfying. In addition to all of our returning characters, we do get one especially big addition to the cast, both in terms of story function and physical stature. This movie sees the introduction of Dwayne Johnson as DSS agent Luke Hobbs. At the time, it was really just exciting to see another big-name, bald action star join the cast. Much like pretty much everybody else in the series, his is a role that's evolved a bit over time. In his first appearance here, he's pretty much an antagonist to our group. Granted, our group's made up of criminals, so Hobbs is technically the good guy, but it doesn't really feel like that. He does provide some nice counterbalance and increases the stakes a bit, but I'm not the biggest fan of him here. Don't get me wrong, he's got some good action, some good moments, some entertaining lines. He's just a little too macho and single-mindedly one note in his motivations and delivery. Since this is a Fast and Furious movie, I've obviously got to talk about the action. The fourth film really changed things for this franchise. It started what has become a perpetual ramp-up and one-upping from one film to the next. Although insane, I would say that fourth film was the last in the series to have stunts and sequences that all seemed plausible. Fast 5 certainly still has some reasonable action sequences. Quite a few of the car chases and shootouts are within the realm of believability, and the rooftop chase sequence isn't absolutely crazy either. But this movie does have two very big, memorable stunt sequences that take things to the next level. Our characters aren't quite superheroes yet, but this movie definitely takes a few liberties with the laws of physics. The train heist is one of those sequences that just keeps building in absurdity, in a good way, a very entertaining way. It starts off as something that seems a bit simplistic, but the way it's done is just so ridiculous. The mechanism of the heist is cool in itself, and then everything ramps up. We get one crazy stunt after another, culminating in one of the most memorable slow motion shots in the franchise. And speaking of memorable, the vault. That whole sequence is my favorite sequence in not only Fast 5, but the entire Fast and Furious franchise. It's one of those things that you can never adequately explain to someone who hasn't watched the movie. It's utterly absurd. The laws of physics have very little bearing on the sequence, and it's the most ridiculous thing. But somehow, in the moment, it really works and feels bizarrely reasonable. That vault being dragged through the city is one of my favorite movie images, and every time I watch this sequence, I can't help but smile the whole time. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is definitely the action. This probably comes as no surprise, and I'm telling you right now that this is going to be a trend you see for the rest of this review series. While the movies have always had action elements to them, these later films are full-blown action blockbusters, and Fast 5 has got the perfect balance between reasonable stunts and completely absurd sequences. The action here is just so much fun, and it all really suits the story, which makes it even better. That train heist is really cool, but nothing can top the vault sequence for me. The second pro is the family reunion. We got a taste of this reunion aspect in the fourth film, but this is the one that really ties all of the characters together. We've got almost everybody from the first film, including a surprise return, Roman and Tej from Too Fast, Too Furious, Han from Tokyo Drift, and Giselle, Leo, and Santos from Fast and Furious. We know all of their stories and personalities, so it's just so fun and satisfying seeing them all finally come together for the first time. Pro number 3 is the story. This franchise has always been a little hit or miss story-wise for me. Some have been pretty good, but some have been a bit lackluster, and so it's always refreshing to have a genuinely good one. The heist storyline is really well done. It's a cool, interesting take on the one last job storyline, and then it's heightened by the team-up and family aspect. These guys aren't just small-time thieves or out for revenge. They realize the spot they've gotten themselves into over these last 4 movies, and are just looking for a way to get out and ensure their own safety. So as long as you're invested in these characters, this is a story that really hooks you and has you rooting for them. On the con side, I honestly don't have any big issues. If I had to pick something though, it would be Hobbs. I don't think he's a bad character or anything. I actually like him. But he's a little extraneous for this story. It's kind of overkill to have 2 different antagonists for our group, but this introduction does serve as important setup for the films to come. He's also a little too single-minded here, in an almost Terminator-like way. He's certainly cool, but he's too over-the-top macho to be as serious of a character as he is, at least in this movie. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Fast 5 or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm going to give Fast 5 4 out of 5 paws. And I'll be honest, this is a pretty high 4. This movie manages to balance the story, action, and fun while also being extremely satisfying for fans of the franchise. I would recommend Fast 5 to anybody who likes the Fast and Furious franchise. It's a franchise that's evolved over time. Some people only like the early movies, some only like the later ones, some like them all. But I think Fast 5 is the one that's universally likable, because it draws so much from the rest of the franchise that you're almost guaranteed to find something you like in it. And even if you're not really into the franchise as a whole, as long as you like action movies, you're going to enjoy big chunks of this. If you liked Fast 5, I would recommend the 2001 remake of Ocean's 11. It's another really good, large ensemble heist movie, and Fast 5 definitely draws upon this one a bit when it comes to the team and planning the heist. If you really liked how this film tied all of the previous ones together, you should watch Furious 7. Not only does it bring a few more old characters back into the fold, but it's the first movie in the timeline that's set after Tokyo Drift, meaning the stories are finally all connected. And if you appreciated the family aspect of this film, you should check out Fast and Furious 6. It continues with the themes and expanded cast we had here, but also works to restore a missing piece of this Fast and Furious family. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Fast 5? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite Fast and Furious stunt or action sequence? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insider information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.